In traditional Indian society, the hierarchy of age is absolute. It is physically reinforced through the ritual of reverence, a younger person bowing down to touch the feet of an elder. But in 1992, that hierarchy was turned upside down. A 62-year-old grandmother deliberately bowed and touched the feet of her 12-year-old granddaughter. This wasn't a symbolic gesture. It was a true event recorded by the author Sudha Murty, who witnessed this subversion of tradition within her own family. The setting was a village in North Karnataka. It was a place where tradition was the law, and information from the outside world was a luxury that often arrived a day late. The grandmother, Krishtakka, was a respected matriarch and a woman of means, but she carried a secret vulnerability. She was unable to read or write a single word. At 62, Krishtakka was a woman of influence. Yet, because she was illiterate, her connection to the world was entirely dependent on the willingness of those around her to speak for it. In her youth, the village elders saw education as a male privilege. Girls were kept entirely from the classroom, leaving Krishtakka to navigate a world of text she couldn't decipher. Her primary connection to the outside world was a serialized novel titled Kashi Yatre, published weekly in a Kannada magazine. Because Krishtakka couldn't read the story herself, every Wednesday she waited for her 12-year-old granddaughter to read the latest chapter aloud to her. She was a passionate consumer of the narrative, memorizing every plot point and retelling the story to her friends at the village temple. This was proxy literacy. Krishtakka had access to complex ideas, but that access was filtered through the voice and the schedule of a 12-year-old girl. She was part of the conversation, but she was not in control of it. Her intellectual life was a captive of someone else's ability. That system collapsed when the granddaughter left the village for a week to attend a wedding, leaving Krishtakka without her reader. The magazine arrived as usual. For the first time, Krishtakka was alone with the highly anticipated next chapter of her favorite story. She opened the pages and saw the familiar illustrations, but the characters beside them remained a series of meaningless shapes. In her frustration, she rubbed her hands over the ink, desperately wishing the knowledge would transfer from the paper to her mind. In that moment, her wealth and status felt irrelevant. She realized she was trapped in a form of silence that only literacy could break. The frustration she felt wasn't just about missing a story. It was the realization that her status and her age offered no protection against being paralyzed by her own dependency. When the granddaughter returned, she found her grandmother in tears, a sight she had never witnessed, even in the most difficult family crises. Krishtakka didn't ask for a summary of the chapter. Instead, she announced that she would learn the Kannada alphabet herself, beginning the next morning. She set a deadline for the festival of Dasera. By the day of Saraswati Puja, the day dedicated to the goddess of learning, she vowed to read a novel on her own. The traditional roles were inverted. The 12-year-old became the demanding instructor, and the 62-year-old became the student. Krishtakka was a relentless student, spending hours reading, repeating vowels, and doing homework with dedication that ignored the social awkwardness of her age. For Krishtakka, the need for independence was far more important than the embarrassment of starting from scratch in the autumn of her life. When the Dasera festival began, the granddaughter arrived with a gift, the newly published full-length novel of Kashi Yatre. Krishtakka led her granddaughter to the family prayer room, gave her a gift in return, and then did something the girl never expected. The grandmother bent down to touch the child's feet. The granddaughter jumped back in shock, witnessing a massive breach of Indian social custom. Krishtakka looked at her and explained, "I am not touching the feet of my granddaughter. I am touching the feet of my teacher." She argued that according to scripture, a teacher earns respect regardless of their age or gender. At that moment, the child's knowledge had outranked the grandmother's years. To prove her success, Krishtakka opened the book and confidently read the title and the publisher's name. She was no longer waiting for a voice to speak for her. By touching her granddaughter's feet, Krishtakka acknowledged a new authority. Literacy had given her personal independence, but her act of bowing showed that knowledge could reorder the traditional hierarchies of her world.